First up, we'll have Ben Golub from Storj. Ben is a serial entrepreneur and the startup CEO at Storj. And for those of you that don't know, he was the CEO of Docker, which is known for sparking the containerization revolution in software development. And they quickly amassed a large community. And those of you that are developers know that it's now a stable technology in software development. So before we get started, we'd like to show you a quick video to introduce Storj.
The needs of cloud storage are pretty simple. Data was supposed to be private, hack-proof, and always available. But if your data is stored in a centralized location, it's still vulnerable. At Storj, we believe that only you should control your data, and it should be available all day, every day. So we developed the first of its kind decentralized cloud object storage solution that stores your data globally across statistically diverse nodes and ISPs. Default encryption makes it resistant to ransomware and tampering, and no single point of failure, making it less susceptible to going offline, getting hacked, or other disasters. Minimizing risk while increasing confidence and control. We even developed user-assigned access grants to ensure maximum privacy. Even the people at Storj can't access your files. Getting started is easy with S3 compatibility. Just change a few lines of code and discover the next revolution in data security and privacy through decentralized cloud object storage. Try Storj DCS for free today.
Thanks for that introduction. My name is Ben Golub. Yesterday we had a lot of great discussion about decentralized apps and decentralized finance, and so today I'm going to be talking about decentralized infrastructure and its role in really bridging Web2 to Web3. You heard a little bit about my background. Storj is actually my 8th startup, 4th as CEO. I've spent most of my life in the infrastructure world, and I've learned a couple things. One is that we all tend to be maybe a little bit overly optimistic about how fast change can happen, but really underestimate how big the change can be when it happens. And the other thing is that decentralization has actually been a theme from Web 1.0 all the way through to where we are today. So, before I get too deep, maybe just start with a personal story. Let me take you back to 1989. I had just moved to the East Coast of the United States, even though I was from San Francisco originally, and I was settling down to watch Game 3 of the 1989 World Series and was really excited. It was my 2 hometown teams, the San Francisco Giants, playing the Oakland A's. And for those of you who know your history, that game never happened because a few minutes before the game started, the largest earthquake in 83 years hit the Bay Area, the 7.2 Loma Prieta quake. Of course, lots of chaos. I did what hundreds of thousands of other people did, which is try to reach my friends and family by picking up my trusty landline phone that I was paying 25 cents a minute to use over the multi-billion-dollar AT&T centralized network to reach my friends and family, and the call couldn't go through. Several minutes later, the call couldn't go through. In fact, it took 3 days for me to be able to talk to my parents. But there was this new thing called the internet and this new thing called email, and I was able to, in a couple of minutes after the earthquake, confirm that everybody was okay. And why did that decentralized network work when the centralized network failed? Well, the messages we were sending were chopped up into little pieces and sent across tens of thousands of different nodes and routers and bridges run by different people all around the world. And if one was busy, it would go another way. And so, I didn't care that my message was going across different nodes and routers and bridges and other people's, and I didn't really care who was running them. And honestly, today, as we're talking, you don't care which routers and bridges this conversation is going over, or the fact that people in Namibia are seeing this over different routers and bridges than people in Nebraska. Not to put too fine a point on it, but in the intervening 30 years, the internet, this decentralized weird network, has become orders of magnitude larger, faster, more secure, orders of magnitude cheaper, and of course more impactful than the centralized networks ever could be. And again, not to put a too fine a point on it. The original centralized telco networks failed when there were 100,000 people trying to use them. 2 years ago, we had billions of people around the world at the start of the pandemic suddenly start attending school, attending conferences, attending work online over the space of a week or two, and yet the internet was able to handle that. For me, there's no real question that decentralized internet is better than the centralized telco network. But if we look at cloud today, it's actually incredibly centralized. In fact, to an extent that would probably make AT&T blush. We have 80% of cloud computing today happening at one of three large companies, Microsoft and Amazon and Google, that also happen to be three of the five largest companies in terms of market cap, and also happen to all be in the data mining business in one way, shape, form, or another. And not that they're doing a bad job, but we've certainly seen that prices have not come down in any material way in several years. Price of storage, for example, has only come down by about 5%, even though the amount of storage doubles every couple of years, and we still have Moore's law operating. And yet we still have this pervasive belief that only the large providers can be trusted. And frankly, when it costs billions and billions and billions of dollars to build out data centers, it's impossible for almost anybody other than the three large providers and maybe Alibaba to enter this market. But if we go about it a different way and we actually try and build infrastructure the way that the internet was built, we can actually change the game and I think unleash huge amounts of potential in the same way that the original internet did. Look, 80% of the world's computing and network and storage capacity is not in the large cloud providers. It's still in small data centers and homes. And we can leverage that. And we can leverage it in a way that has no single points of failure, better security, better performance, and I think will cause the same kinds of unanticipated amazing things that the original internet did. And of course, storage is interested in doing this for the storage side of the house, but of course, there's a lot of great activity happening in decentralized cloud in general. In compute, we've got people like Akash and Golub, and I think Akash is speaking later today. Networking, and of course, us in storage. And what we're all trying to do is basically take the things that make decentralization powerful and make the cloud powerful, not in spite of being decentralized and not in spite of the fact that there are different people running different aspects of it, but precisely because we have no single point of failure and no centralized group that's running things. So where are we now? Well, we're still early days in terms of decentralized apps and decentralized infrastructure, but we're not at the rickety infrastructure stage anymore. There are now networks like Storj and like others that are actually delivering enterprise-grade solutions, enterprise-grade that is faster and cheaper and more secure and more durable than or as you can get from the centralized cloud providers, and of course at a fraction of the price. Now, unfortunately, we're at a place right now where a lot of the decentralized apps are actually being run on centralized infrastructure. And I'll be honest, I don't think it makes sense to run your blockchain on a centralized infrastructure provider. I don't think it makes sense to, have your NFT stored on a centralized infrastructure provider because you're missing a lot of the point. Of course, those of us who are doing decentralized infrastructure need to make sure that we're delivering the reliability and the enterprise-grade performance. And ultimately, what I think we're going to see is that we're going to get the Web3 apps running on decentralized infrastructure, but we're also going to get a lot of power from having the Web2 apps move onto Web3 infrastructure. And again, go back to the early days of the internet. Part of what made it really powerful is we quickly realized that there was no such thing as an internet company. Every company was supposed to be an internet company. And I think hopefully we're going to find that every app and every company in not too many years is going to have to be a Web3 decentralized company, just because it is a better way to do things. And if you think about what it is that we're trying to achieve with these next generation decentralized apps, in many cases, we can get to a lot of the same things by taking the Web2 apps and just running them on decentralized infrastructure in a way that gives you the privacy and the security and the control and the underlying economics and sovereignty that we're really looking for in Web3. And so while we're trying to be revolutionary in what we achieve, I think we can be evolutionary in how we approach it. And again, a lot of the near-term opportunity is just coming from bringing Web2 and using it on Web3 infrastructure. So a little bit about Storj and our journey here. We started from a realization that, of course, the internet is global. It's highly shared, engagement at the edge, and increasingly data is created and consumed and analyzed at the edge. So it doesn't make sense to necessarily do storage located in a few centralized locations, but in fact, what we thought would make sense would be to have global edge storage. And so we built up a global network of tens of thousands of drives, and we don't own a single one of them. They're each independently operated by people in different locations, different power supplies, different networks, different geographies. And the data is spread across that. And of course, first question people usually ask is, well, how can I trust that everybody operating a node is competent and not evil? And you can't, in the same way you can't guarantee that everybody who's operating a router or a bridge today on the internet is. But we designed the system assuming that there's some badness in there, and therefore we built it in a way that's resistant. So for example, in our case, any file that's uploaded is encrypted with keys that only the end user has. It's then broken up into about 80 pieces, of which any 29 can put it back together. And each of those 80 pieces, again, goes to a different drive run by a different person, a different geography. And that ends up doing some amazing things. Of course, they're all compensated on the back end with crypto, but what really makes this powerful is, first of all, it's incredibly durable. We could lose the entire East Coast of the United States due to a power outage. We actually modeled what would happen if every drive, from Prague to Petropavlovsk, 11 time zones away, suddenly went offline because of what's happening in Russia and the Ukraine, and no files would be lost. You'd have to lose over 51 drives simultaneously in order to lose a single file. And so it's incredibly resilient. Same thing happens with security. No file lives in any one location, and nobody in the network has the ability to look at anything more than an encrypted blob that's 1/29th of what they would need to get to a single file. And the second file that you might want to get if you were a hacker is on 29 different drives, right? So that, as one of our customers describes it, it's like encrypted sand on an encrypted page. And finally, all of that parallelism does the same thing that all the parallelism of the internet does, right? It gives you incredible performance. Places that may be slow in one, equipment that may be slow because of one thing, gets routed to a different place. People who are in Namibia are viewing files from different nodes than people who are in Nebraska. And it ends up being more durable, more secure, more fast. But, given that this is the World Crypto Economic Forum, probably the thing that excites most people is the economics. And so from our perspective, we're not spending billions of dollars trying to beat AWS at their game by building out data centers. But on the individual level, the people who are running these drives, for the most part, are using equipment they already have that's in data centers and universities and homes. And they can run it without buying new equipment, hiring new people, building out new cooling or power. And it actually takes almost no more additional electricity to run a drive at 80% capacity versus 25% capacity. And look, 75% of the drives in the world are less than 20% full. So we have unlimited capacity to deliver storage and do it in a very high margin way for the providers and a very high margin transparent way for the providers, but still very inexpensive for the end users. Right now, the network is delivering, storage that's better, faster, more secure, about 1/20th the price of the cloud providers. Interestingly, as it's not only better today, but the economics will get even better in the future as more people join the network and we get Moore's law applying in a way that it isn't in the centralized cloud today. And finally, all the things that make supply side more economically attractive, the fact that there's no new equipment or power being used, turns out also makes it a lot more environmentally friendly as well. And as you might expect, what we're seeing is what I described earlier. There's a lot of great Web3 use cases, blockchain fast sync and NFTs being stored on Storj. But we're also seeing a lot of Web2 apps that want to be more secure, private, economical. They're moving over in areas like video and software distribution and backup. One very cool one that just joined, Gab Wireless. If you have, tweens at home, you may want to take a look at Gab Wireless. They offer an experience that is for cellular that is tailored to the needs of tweens. And of course, security is incredibly important. And they were attracted to working with us because there is no centralized trove of photos or contacts that a would-be hacker could get at. But moving back from sort of storage to more generally decentralized infrastructure, I think there are a few takeaways that we can have from what we've seen so far. First of all, going back to what I said at the beginning, a nice quote from Bill Gates. We always tend to overestimate the change that's going to happen in the near term, but really underestimate the amount of change and the magnitude of that change that's going to happen in the long run. And yeah, we're going to be in a position for a while where the same businesses who said they'd never store their data in the cloud or would never use the internet, will come moving along. But enough people will be forward thinking that we'll get a change. And honestly, the same economic headwinds right now that are causing people to take a look at crypto that might not have looked at crypto in the past will also cause them to look at decentralized infrastructure, because this is real and real businesses are being built. And, as kind of maybe some final thoughts, what should be exciting to everybody who's attending the World Crypto Economic Forum is that we're using decentralized market economics to help build this out. Everybody who's running a node for us or for a number of the other decentralized providers is economically incented to do so. And so whereas, in the 80s, we might have said that the network is the computer, now my colleague Sean Wilkinson likes to say that the marketplace is the network. And, I started this talk by talking about a baseball game in 1989 where there was some seismic event. But the other seismic event that happened in 1989 was that the Berlin Wall fell. And sort of the world got a powerful message that centralized economics are not the way to go. Centralized economies are not the way to go. You get more power and innovation by being decentralized. And what we're seeing right now is decentralized infrastructure is marrying decentralized economics with decentralized architecture in a way that is going to be incredibly powerful, and I think will change the world in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. And so, again, just to close everything out, it's early innings, but this is extremely exciting. And while the umpire couldn't say it at that game in 1989, we can all say it now. It's time to play ball. So thank you.